Marvel just teased its new X-Men 2028 movie at D23 and announced part of the new X-Men team, even though they're not going to be filming the movie for a while. The reason why they announced so many of them is because some of them are showing up in Marvel movies before the X-Men solo film, and there's only 2 upcoming Marvel movies, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. This is also one of the reasons why we've been seeing so much X-Men footage in the Avengers Doomsday trailers. Marvel cannot wait to show you as much X-Men stuff, new and old, as possible as soon as possible. Marvel also wanted to capitalize on the Spider-Man Brand New Day hype and Sadie Sink Jean Grey entering the MCU. That movie just made over $2 billion at the box office and has still got legs. It's only been out for a few weeks. One of the bigger new characters they announced was Inde Navarrette Rogue, who most of you probably recognize from Obsession more recently or Superman and Lois. She's been in many things before this, but those are just the 2 big things that most comic book fans recognize her from recently. And she's supposed to be one of the next new X-Men showing up before the X-Men 2028 movie, and I think we figured out why Marvel needs to use her in a movie before they put her on the new X-Men team, so we will break it all down. If you didn't see the big D23 news, Inde Navarrette is playing the new Rogue, Maya Boyd is the new Storm, everybody already knew about Sadie Sink Jean Grey from Spider-Man Brand New Day, Kit Connor is the new Cyclops, Christopher Abbott is the new Professor X, Samara Weaving is Emma Frost, and Adam Driver is the new Mr. Sinister. Those aren't the only new X-Men, and not all the people they announced at D23 are on the X-Men team. Emma Frost, for example, is not on the X-Men team. Mr. Sinister, of course, not on that X-Men team. They announced some of the new core X-Men team members and some of the new villains. The reason why they didn't announce the entire new team is because not all the contracts are done, and there'll be other mutants in the movie and people from the X-Men comics who aren't on that first X-Men team roster. Most of this big D23 panel that Marvel did was meant to hype up Avengers Doomsday because that's the next big Marvel movie coming out later this year, but they wanted to make this X-Men announcement official to get people hyped up for the mutant era of the MCU, Mutant Saga, starting Marvel Phase 7 after Avengers Secret Wars. All the X-Men right now that are coming back in Avengers Doomsday are the classic versions of the characters. Sadie Sink Jean Grey isn't meant to come back in Doomsday, for example. I don't believe any of these new X-Men they announced are meant to show up in that movie either. They're mostly focusing on legacy characters in Doomsday.
Whoa. Easy, pal.
But the new report is that Inde Navarrette Rogue is supposed to appear in Avengers Secret Wars, which makes sense for a couple important reasons. They didn't say if she's the only new X-Men team member showing up in Secret Wars. I would not be surprised if Sadie Sink also shows up in that. Maybe one other like Storm, because they're making such a big deal about putting her character in other MCU movies after the new X-Men movie too. I don't think they want the entire team to appear in that movie, maybe just a couple of them, because I don't think they're actually going to start off the X-Men 2028 movie with them being on the X-Men team. I think they probably won't form the X-Men team till the end of that movie. Not that they're going to surf Dracula the X-Men, I think they're going to do a version of First Class that's a little bit different, where they do form the X-Men team in the movie, but it's not till a little bit later in the film. But there are a couple reasons that they want to add them to Secret Wars, even if it's just cameos. First, to set up what comes next after this current era of Marvel, the multiverse saga. They want to hype up the mutant era. Marvel did a terrible job of this in Avengers Endgame. There were so many people that I saw in the comments of my Endgame videos after the movie came out in 2019 that thought that Endgame was legit going to be the last MCU movie, and Marvel would just stop making movies after that. Like, all thought it was all done. Avengers are over, Marvel crossover movies are done, everybody just pack it up and go home. No more Marvel movies. Which is absolutely ridiculous. It's like all these people were treating it like it was the first movie they ever saw and they never touched a comic book in their lives. But I largely place the blame for that on the Russos and Kevin Feige, Marvel specifically, because they said that they built that movie Endgame to be an end for this group of characters at Marvel. They wanted it to feel like a finale for the MCU, and they did. Congratulations. That was why they built in so many natural outs for all the actors and the characters, because some at the time, remember this is at the time in 2019, most of them wanted to stop appearing in Marvel movies. Not all of them, but a lot of them wanted off the Marvel train for at least a good long while. Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson were the most vocal ones, like they wanted a couple years away. Scarlett Johansson was doing the Black Widow movie after that, but like that was her end as the Black Widow character. That's why they killed her off in that movie, because they wanted to give the actress an out. Marvel also didn't want to keep paying Robert Downey Jr. all the money in the world, so they wanted to be done with him at the time too. But cut to a couple years later, you find out that did not work out. Like, they did a terrible job of transitioning new fans, onboarding new fans to Marvel Phase 4 stuff, so they needed to go back, like, redo button, hit the redo button, Avengers Doomsday, basically just bringing all the characters back. So now what Marvel is doing is using their mulligan with Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars to do a big do-over on the transition from the old era of Marvel to the new mutant saga of Marvel in a way better handoff between the characters and onboard a bunch of brand new fans at the same time. So that's the first major reason they want to have some of these new X-Men in the 2028 movie appear in Secret Wars, have them show up, do something real cool, real crazy stuff to show off their powers and what they can do, get casual fans a teaser for their characters to get them excited to see more of them in the X-Men 2028 movie, which is coming out a couple months after Secret Wars. Like, it's the next big movie. It's just like introducing Spider-Man in Captain America Civil War right before Spider-Man Homecoming. They did the same thing with Black Panther, like, he's real cool in Civil War, get people hyped up for the Black Panther solo movie. But there are also a lot more important reasons to include Rogue specifically in Secret Wars. Inde Navarrette's version is to give her a way more comic book accurate origin story for her powers. When people think of Rogue right now, there's three main versions. There's the original comic book version, there's the X-Men 97, X-Men the Animated Series version of Rogue, which closely resembles the comic book version of Rogue, and the third being Anna Paquin's live-action Rogue from the classic X-Men movies. She was vastly different from the comics. She couldn't fly, she didn't have super strength. The only thing they did from the comics was her ability to siphon other people's abilities, but they didn't really do much with that after the first X-Men movie. Recently, Kevin Feige made a much bigger deal about being way more true to the comics with the MCU version of the X-Men. It's one of the reasons why they have the X-Men and Avengers Doomsday looking way more comic book accurate suits. Even though there are some changes to those too, they're much closer to the comics than they were during their original movies. And Rogue in the comics did not start out being able to fly or with super strength. She started out like Anna Paquin's version, just a normal girl who was able to leech the life force of anyone she touched, mutant or human, anybody. If she touches a normal human without powers, she just sucks their life force. Like, think Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, getting their life force sucked out.
Can it, wild boy, if you don't want a little of the same.
Mutants are way more powerful, so if she siphons their power, she takes on the characteristics tied to that power too. X-Men Animated Series got into this way more. And I think Marvel wants to use Secret Wars to introduce Inde Navarrette's version to give her powers a more accurate backstory, because Secret Wars will be full of all Marvel characters from across the different MCU movies, and they want her to get some of her powers before the X-Men 2028 movie. Particularly her ability to fly and her super strength. Because who else is in Secret Wars? Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, and maybe Monica Rambeau's mother, Maria Rambeau, who's just another version of Captain Marvel. Marvel can use either one of those characters to do this. In the comics, Rogue famously got her ability to fly when she siphoned off all Captain Marvel's powers. Back in the day, X-Men the Animated Series also had a whole episode dedicated to this origin story, which was closer to the original comics. In the original comic book version, Rogue was a new character created by Chris Claremont, longtime X-Men writer, who had run-ins with heroes, a lot of the other comics at the time, including Dazzler, Rom, the Avengers, and in Avengers Annual number 10, she and the Brotherhood of Mutants were trying to take down the Avengers one by one, and in the process, Rogue ended up having prolonged contact with Carol Danvers' skin, who at the time was going by Miss Marvel. She didn't become Captain Marvel till later in the comics. At the time that Marvel did this, Rogue was not a fully fleshed out character yet. She was just a villain who was an extra in the Brotherhood of Mutants, but Chris Claremont had a lot of ideas for the character, but her powers weren't fully conceptualized at the time. So additionally, Marvel had canceled the Miss Marvel comic book a few years prior to this and simply added her to the Avengers team, but the character wasn't really working out that well in the Avengers books. So she was being written out of the Avengers, and they had to have her leave the Avengers team. And basically, Captain Marvel, or Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, was sacrificed to power up Rogue and give the X-Men this interesting new female powerhouse mutant with an iffy past that worked out well with the outlaw image of the X-Men at the time. I don't know if Inde Navarrette's version of Rogue will also have the same backstory with Mystique like she did in the comics, because they already changed Sadie Sink Jean Grey's backstory so much from the comics, but Secret Wars feels like a real easy opportunity to have Inde's Rogue either on purpose by fighting her or accidentally take Captain Marvel's power, or they could sacrifice Monica Rambeau's mother Binary for the same twist, giving her her big flight power upgrade, and they could also just say that's where her super strength comes from too. The other change here too is that Rogue's super strength came after she took Wonder Man's power in the comics. The reason why she didn't also get Wonder Man's other crazier powers like energy manipulation, shapeshifting, teleportation is because Marvel kind of forgot about all the weirder Wonder Man powers over time, or maybe they wanted to forget or just downplay a lot of them. And at the time, Chris Claremont just wanted to give Rogue a cool power upgrade to put her on the X-Men team. He didn't want to give her like all these other crazy powers too at the same time, making her a mutant Jesus. Make all the jokes you want to. There were many other mutants later on that tried to eventually become a version of Marvel Jesus.
I am Marvel Jesus.
But it kind of looks like Marvel wants Inde Navarrette's Rogue to have her more iconic power set before the X-Men 2028 movie, and Secret Wars is just the only movie coming out before that, so it just makes sense to include her, even if it's only for a couple minutes. I will do more videos for that X-Men 2028 movie as they reveal more details. For instance, Kevin Feige said that the movie and the origin for the characters would feel very different from any version of X-Men you've seen on screen before. I think one of these ways is they're doing a different take with the characters by doing the Mr. Sinister orphanage subplot from the comics. Mostly for Cyclops' backstory, but probably for some of the others' backstories too, but they can use the orphanage to introduce multiple X-Men. It might be why Adam Driver, during the teaser at D23, announced he was playing Nathaniel Milbury. He didn't say Nathaniel Essex or Mr. Sinister. This might be because Mr. Sinister in the comics operated an orphanage called the State Home for Foundlings. He went by the alias Nathaniel Milbury then, and used the orphanage as a secret cover to experiment on mutants, particularly Cyclops and Jean Grey. It's where he learned their bloodline would lead to an ultra-powerful mutant capable of wielding the Phoenix Force, who would eventually become Cable. He also created the clone of Jean Grey, Madeline Pryor there, then eventually used her to conceive Nathan Summers with Cyclops. So I wouldn't be surprised if the X-Men 2028 movie, a lot of the new X-Men meet each other through the orphanage subplot. Like early theory, pure speculation, Jean Grey telepathically hears some of them at the orphanage and tries to rescue them. They then meet each other through this rescue attempt and Professor X, and at the end of the movie, they all band together and decide to put together a new team, and it winds up being the X-Men team. It is still very early days. I wouldn't be surprised if they announce more of the new X-Men characters over the rest of the year, just to get people hyped up, keep them hyped up for new X-Men stuff. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below and let me know what you wanted to do with the new and the old X-Men in Secret Wars. There were many other trailers at D23. I've done videos for most of them. There were a couple that leaked out that I haven't gotten to yet, but like I just did Vision Quest. The other big thing happening this weekend is Lanterns Episode 2. That video should post Sunday night after they release it, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. Everybody click here for that X-Men 2028 teaser, and click here for all my other Marvel D23 trailers like Avengers Doomsday and Vision Quest. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.